If you're thinking about hiring a virtual assistant, then this video is for you because I'm going to walk you through one of my favorite books, which is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. This book is so good. Honestly, just go on Amazon and order it. It has so many practical tips. So in this video, I'm going to share my 5 favorite takeaways that I think are most important. And it's going to be super helpful for anyone who's thinking about hiring a virtual assistant and making it work for you. The only thing I can't tell you how to do is how to get your kids to stop coloring on your books. That one I still can't figure out, but when it comes to hiring a virtual assistant, I'm pretty good at it because that's what we do for work, and we match virtual assistants in Africa to clients around the world, and I can also tell you some of my own tips for working with my virtual assistant, Mary. So let's dive in. Tip number 1 in this book is more of just the overall idea that you should not hire to grow your business, you should hire to buy back your time. Now that took me a little while to let it sink in, but it makes so much sense. If you're constantly trying to grow your business, the chances are you're going to make something impossible because a couple years later, everything is going to be based on you. You are going to be the bottleneck and you will not be able to grow your business or to keep performing great customer service for your clients because you're at the center of everything. So instead of hiring more team members just to grow your business, hire a virtual assistant to buy back your time. And when you buy back your time and you're able to work on high-level tasks and things that really fill you up and energize you, you will be growing the business actually a lot better. But the focus should be on getting you your time back. And I think that's a really important thing for founders to keep in mind because at first it feels really good to be the person that's the center of everything, to be the person who knows all the answers and knows how everything works. It feels really good. But I guarantee you, a couple years into your business, you're going to realize that you have created your own self-made prison that you cannot get out of until you have someone helping you take off some tasks off your load, buy back your time. Trust me, I had to learn it the hard way, and so do all my clients. But if you're listening to this, be smart. Don't learn the hard way. Start buying back your time now. It's going to make so much of a difference. Number 2 that the book tells you to do is to calculate out your buyback rate. And what that means is you take your revenue that you're making per year and you divide it by 2,000, which is around the hours you're probably working per year. And then you divide it again by 4. So for example, let's say you're making $200,000 per year. You're going to divide that by 2,000, which is 100. You divide that by 4, which is $25. This means that you're able to hire a virtual assistant for $25 an hour or less. Now, the average virtual assistant in the US is probably charging about $40. Sometimes you can find them cheaper on Upworks. We obviously do outsourcing and hire virtual assistants that are more affordable because they're offshore. But whatever the number is, just know how much you can actually afford, and that's going to be really helpful in deciding who and where to hire from. Now, number 3, once you know that you are hiring to get back your time and you know how much you can afford to pay per hour, the third thing that you really want to do is decide what you're going to delegate. And while there are endless amount of tasks that should come off your shoulders, the first 2 that Dan mentions in the book, which I totally agree with, is 1, inbox, and 2, your calendar. So let's talk more about that. Now, when I first did a time audit, I was amazed to find out that I was spending about 12 hours per week emailing. 12 hours per week I was spending on my inbox. And that actually checks out because when I did the research, it looks like most CEOs are also spending about 25% of their time emailing, which is crazy. So one of the first things you need to do is have your virtual assistant handle your inbox for you. They can delete the spammy messages that you're getting or those newsletters that you never read. They can help respond to certain emails either as themselves or as you. For example, my virtual assistant will sometimes say, hey, this is Mary, Val's assistant. I got to this email before she could, and I'm here to help. So let's do this, blah, 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 blah. And she knows what I would want her to say. Other times, she'll just respond as myself when it comes to scheduling and doing things like that. But the biggest takeaway is that you should not be spending 12 hours doing emails. And so this is one of those tasks that your virtual assistant can really help you do. When I first onboarded my virtual assistant, Mary, I was not super prepared, honestly. religiously with everything that she should do in terms of like you respond like this to this email and you respond to that email like this. Instead, we just did a bunch of recorded calls where I literally cleaned out my inbox while she was watching, and then she took the transcripts from that video and then she created her own SOP. So for example, she would say like, when I get this email about the networking group, I'm going to add those dates onto the calendar and then I delete it. When I get something about scheduling or moving a meeting, then I'm going to go ahead and schedule it. When I get this email, I'm going to delete it, and so on and so on. And she created an entire SOP of how she handles my inbox, which was super helpful. The next thing after you have your inbox handled is your calendar management. And at first I thought I didn't need help with this because I had a Calendly that I was sending out. But then I realized how disorganized my week was. I would go to a podcast recording, and then I would go to a sales call, and then I would record a YouTube video, and then I would do an interview, and then I would do an account management call. And my week was all over the place. And so another tip he mentions in your book is not only should your virtual assistant be the person who is sending out Zoom invites and scheduling for you, but make sure you are having them batch certain meetings and types of work in one batch. So for example, after I read this book, I completely reorganized my week. And so Monday mornings, I spend doing marketing. I love doing marketing tasks. It's something that really lights me up. And so I schedule my whole Monday morning just to be on marketing tasks. Monday afternoon is when I do all my internal meetings. So I'm meeting with my CFO, I'm meeting with my account manager, I'm meeting with my recruiter, and doing all of those together because it's one after another. And it's the same train of thought, which is my team and how we're going to get work done for the week. Now, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings, I started scheduling my sales meetings then as much as possible. And then the rest of the day, late morning and the rest of the afternoon, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm doing our interviews and onboarding and some account management calls. Then on Friday mornings, I left that open as flex time. There's always a project or something that we want to roll out or something that just really takes some really deep focus time. And I use that for Friday mornings. And then Friday afternoons for a long time, I've been taking off. It is so nice to have Friday afternoons off and just have a few hours for myself. And so we left that as is. But however you do it, you have to know that give your virtual assistant time to schedule the meetings for yourself and give her the layout of how you want your ideal week to look like. Now, if you are still not convinced that you should be batching similar work together, an example he shares in the book is that multitasking does not work. And I was a little bit unsure because I thought I'm pretty good at multitasking, right? But one example I've heard him say is this. Okay, let's say I'm gonna count to 10 as fast as I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So fast, right? And now let me see if I can do ABC super fast. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, blah, 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 right? That's so fast. But if I have to combine them, I'm gonna be much slower. So A1, 2B, C3, 4D, 5E, like you can see that I'm starting to slow down the longer it gets. And that's because I'm going from one task to another and then back, and it's slowing me down. So please try it out, design your ideal week, and give your virtual assistant permission to only schedule you during those specific times. And another advantage of having your virtual assistant do your calendar management is they're more likely to stick to the rules. For me, I'm a little bit lenient. If someone texts me and they want to do a meeting that's not really at that specific time, I'm more likely to be like, okay, I can make it work. I can be flexible. But my virtual assistant is a lot more strict. And she's like, no, Val told me to only schedule podcast recordings on Monday morning. So that's only what I'm going to do now. And so it's actually helpful to give that permission to somebody else to take over your calendar. Point number 4 is that once you have all of this extra free time, what should you be doing? Well, what you want to do is define what your high level tasks are. And so when I first did this, I made a list of tasks that I should be doing. But when I looked over it, I still didn't feel energized. I felt kind of like I could just feel my shoulders sinking. And I was like, this is still not what I want to be doing with my extra time. So in the book, he talks a lot about like, what is energizing you? What makes you excited? And what are the things that are going to really move the needle forward in your business? And so I redid my list and it is now so much more on point with what I want to be doing. I'm so much more excited about my days, knowing that I'm doing the things that I really enjoyed the most in my business. And I know that ultimately that is actually how we're going to grow. The fifth and final, I think, best takeaway from this book is the 10-80-10 rule. And what this means is, let's say that there's a task that you genuinely like doing, but you know it's not high level. You know that somebody else should be doing, but you still want a little bit of control. And that's where this rule comes in. Start by doing the first 10% of that task. Lay out the direction it needs to go into, and then let your virtual assistant take over 80% of that task. They give it back to you, and then you do the last 10% and just polish it off. So here's an example. Let's say you have a really cool client who came to you and you have to make a special proposal for them. Do the first 10%. Pick out that template or pick out the general things that that proposal needs to cover and get the first sentences going so that your virtual assistant knows how to take over. Then let your virtual assistant do 80%. Let them fill in the gaps and do some more of the design of it. And then the last 10%, you are reviewing, you are editing, you are polishing, you are doing just a little bit of that copywriting that you like to do so that it is perfect for your clients. And now remember, another tip in the book he says is that 80% done right is awesome. And that took me another second to grasp because as a business owner, I want to be a little bit perfectionistic about what is happening. And he said, probably your standards are up here. So if your virtual assistant can do 80% of what you can do, that's not fine, that's awesome. So keep that in mind. And as long as you're following the 10-80-10 rule, the byproduct is gonna still be really high quality. So those are my 5 favorite takeaways from this book, which is, again, number 1, don't hire to grow your business, hire to buy back your time. Number 2 is to calculate out your buyback rate so you know how much you can afford to spend on a virtual assistant. Number 3 is to make sure that the first 2 things you're delegating are your inbox and your calendar management. After that is sorted out, you can give them more and more tasks to handle. Number 4 is once you have all this extra time, make sure that you are spending it on high-level tasks. And number 5 is to remember the 10-80-10 rule, and that 80% done right is awesome. I'm going to leave you with 2 other pieces of motivation to get you started on a virtual assistant. The first is what Dan Martell says is to buy a business that you can play forever. And what he says is that a lot of entrepreneurs think that they can outrun, out-hustle, just work so hard until they get to a business that they can eventually sell and is all going to be worth it at the end of the day. But that should not be your focus. Instead, build a business that is sustainable, that you enjoy, that you can literally play forever. And to do that, it means you need to get those admin tasks off of you. And the last piece of advice I really like is a quote by Robin Sharma, and it says this: change is hard in the beginning, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. And this is so true for everything, but especially for hiring a virtual assistant. It's hard to hire a virtual assistant because you have to take time out of your day to train. When I first had my virtual assistant join, we spent 2 hours on a Tuesday morning going over my inbox. It took a lot of investment in my time those first few weeks and months to make it worth it. And then of course, in the middle, it's messy. Some things will not be done right. Some messages will get sent out probably not the way you wanted them to, or some tasks will get done not quite the way you would have done it yourself. It's a little bit messy, but at the end, if you hold true to it, then the end result is amazing. You're gonna have so much extra time to spend with your family, to be with your kids, to grow your business, to do the things that light you up, and your business will not be just dependent on you. You'll no longer be the bottleneck. So I hope these tips help you. If you have a question about hiring a virtual assistant, put it in the comments. Or if you already have a virtual assistant, tell me your favorite tips to making it work. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to these videos for more tips on working with remote team members.